Hello, this is Screencast 8, When Bad Things Happen to Good Memories. It's actually quite a nice little war story in its own little way. So this is a customer who have an LPAR with 14 gigabytes of memory online. And in this slide, as you can see, the amount of memory that gets to remain free during the day goes way, way down. I've actually plotted both the average memory free and the minimum memory free. And you can see that for once, and this is a little unusual, the two track pretty well together. Now you have to bear in mind the minimum memory free is actually the minimum value at one of, in this case, 900 sampling points that RMF does in a 15-minute interval. It doesn't necessarily mean the actual minimum free, so the instantaneous minimum free could in fact be substantially lower, although in this case there's nowhere to go, so it can't really be. But that's just a general point. So we can obviously see daytime is an unusual amount of pressure in memory terms. Now, if we actually look at who's using the memory, then the picture becomes a little bit clearer. Oh, by the way, the minimum free, which is the minimum value of the minimum on the previous slide, is 46 meg, which you might think is vaguely healthy, but it really isn't, because actually it turns out from slides I won't bore you with, that there's quite a lot of data out on page packs. In fact, the page packs are rather busier than they ought to be for sensible performance. But here you can see in the blue the online workload, this is a WLM workload, has grown early in the working day at 4 a.m. in this particular time zone. By the way, the previous chart and this chart have data from paging activity report data, which is SMF71 from RMF. This report, though, has also 72 subtype 3 data, which is workload activity report data, combined with the paging activity report SMF71 to try and give you a more comprehensive picture. But the key thing here is nothing much changes other than there's a big increase in the online workload during the day. And the question obviously becomes, where on earth did that come from? Well, in the final slide I'm going to share with you, it becomes obvious. So this is adding up the memory usage at service class level for all the service classes in the online WLM workload. And this is pure and simple SMF72 subtype 3 now. So you can see what happens. 24 hours a day, the online prod memory is just over 6 gigabytes. And overnight, there's basically no online test work. But during the day, starting at about 4 a.m., we have online test occupying another good few gigabytes of memory, and then it comes down at the end of the day. I would say, by the way, the step down there represents a partial interval being at full usage and a partial interval at none. And maybe you could interpolate as to when that comes down, but that's probably pushing the data a little bit too far, which I quite like to do. So, what are the options for the customer? The options for the customer really are twofold. The usual ones: provision more or use less. Now, in this particular case, using less might be difficult because, what are you going to do? Not run stuff. The provision more, well, there is an opportunity here because this workload is actually moving from a very old machine. The LPAR is moving lock, stock and barrel to a shiny new environment. And my advice to the people setting up the new environment is actually to provision rather more than 14 gig, which is a very skinny LPAR for a production LPAR like this one. Actually, this is a mixture of production and test, as you can see. So the provision more seems the more likely case here. So I hope you've enjoyed Screencast 8.